Hi, good evening everyone. In the previous sessions, we have done with the client scripts, type of client scripts, and we have done with UI policies also, like how we can do the column behaviors and how we can use a script in UI policies. And today we are here to learn like what is server-side scripting and what are the different types or what are the different types of server-side scriptings available in ServiceNow. As we know that the server-side scripting executes on the database level or in the list view or in the backend. Okay. And here the first part we here to discuss is data policies, like which is a mini topic which comes under this server-side scripting. As we know the UI policy, the name itself states that UI policy works on the UI, like the user interface. The data policies, the name itself states that it works on the data or it executes on the database, okay, or in the list level. Majorly towards the data policies, we'll see in the list view of the tables. Okay, let's see write the definition of the data policies. The scripts which execute on database or list view or backend. Okay, and here we have only two column behaviors like making read only and mandatory. Okay, we have only two, making a column read only, making a column mandatory. Let's see how it is possible, and let's go for the path first, how to open the existing data policies. Go for filter navigator, type data policies, and there we can see like the list view of the data policies. Let me open my PDA, click on filter navigator, type data policies, and under system policy we have this data policies here. Click on this data policy application module, and you can see the existing ones here. Click on new button to create a new data policy. It appears like it works only on the list view, not on the form view. Okay, UI policy only works on the form. When we come to this data policy, it works on the list view or the database or in the backend. Here I need to mention the table name here, like what is the table name which you want to apply this data policy. Okay, just select the table which you want to mention. Like I select as incident here. I want to apply this data policy on incident table list view. And we have inherit option, like if you want to apply this data policy for the next child tables which are child for the incident table, then check this box. And reverse if false, we have seen this reverse if false in the UI policies. The same thing applies for data policy also. If it is active, then only it executes. If it is not active, then it doesn't execute in the backend. And we'll discuss these things later, like apply to import sets, apply to SOAP, use as UI policy on client side. Okay, and application scope is obviously the global scope here. And we have short description, just mention as demo for batch 26. Okay, then save this record. If you want to make a column read only by using data policy, we are seeing by this example, like as we have the UI policy actions for the UI policy, for the data policy we have data policy rules. Okay, click on new button, and as I said that we have only two here, read only and mandatory. Okay, let's go for the field name and select the description here or short description and make it as read only. Okay, read only true. Click on submit. I have created a data policy rule for the incident table list view where short description is read only. We can't edit the short description, we can only read only the content. Okay, let me open the incident list view. Right now we have the list view of incidents. Right now we have the short description column here. If I want to edit this short description, double click on this one and type anything what you want. If I click on this save button or enter button, Then it is showing as data policy exception. The following fields are read only. The field name is short description. Okay. For example, if I open this record, then short description is allowed to edit the values. Okay, you can write anything like testing. Like we have also done with the UI policy also, and we can mention this part or ignore this part. If you don't want to apply on the client side, ignore this button, click on save, then refresh here. Then it won't applies for the form view. You can edit here like testing 123, click on update, and you can see like 10085 incident short description is updated. Okay, let's go back once again. If I want to edit this one like 10010, if I enter as something called demo purpose, if I click on save or enter here, then we have pop-up message called data policy exception. The following fields are read only. We can't edit this in the list view. If I open this record, then you can see we can edit this record. If you want to apply the data policy on the form view also, then we have an option called use as UI policy on client side. Then we can click on this checkbox and it will apply both on front end along with back end, like in the list view along with the form view. If I save this record, you can see that if I refresh this part, then the short description also be read only in the form view also. Okay, clear? Any doubts till now here up to this?
No, sir.
Then we don't see any mandatory here. For example, if I make any column mandatory, like if I go for the incident list view, we don't have like any option to see this is mandatory or not. For example, short description is mandatory in the form view, but in the list view we can't see anything as mandatory. This mandatory option will work while we are importing any data from the external sources, or if you are applying any REST API or SOAP API towards this data like incident table data, then these data policy will work. We'll discuss these points in the apply to import sets, like import set table concept, and this option when we are applying the REST API or SOAP API. Okay, and we already discussed this point. Like if you want to execute this data policy into UI policy also, we have this option, and check this box, and it will also appear on the form view along with the database view or the list view. And you can see like the related link, convert this to UI policy. If I click on this part, the same thing applies. Convert this to UI policy, and you can see like a UI policy record will open. And you can see that it was derived from something called this data policy. You can see that it is a UI policy. Short description is demo for B26. Table is incident, and it is not showing active as true. You need to mention this active as true. And here we can see like short description, read only, true. It was done by using the data policy, or we can do the vice versa. Vice versa, something called as we can convert UI policy into data policy into UI policy. Okay. If they ask like anything to be done, like point should be mentioned regarding the interview. What is data policy? Data policy will execute on database or list view or in the backend, and we have only two enhancements like making column mandatory, making column read only. Read only works in the list view. If you want to show the mandatory, it can be available when we are importing data from external sources into ServiceNow, or when we are applying SOAP or REST API, like integrating ServiceNow with other external systems. And we can convert the data policy into UI policy, or along with UI policy into data policy. It's called vice versa. Okay.